We're going to look at mastering our geographical and digital farming for agents in this PowerPoint. We go through kind of this slide. So we're going to talk about real estate farming, get in the right market, some basic physical and digital strategies, and then maybe talk about a plan some if we have time. So of course you're going to realize why even worry about farming? What's the whole point of picking the neighborhood? So the main reason, there was a couple different main reasons. Well, one of them is if you're consistent, it creates predictability, which means people in your area, if they're used to seeing you, they can kind of know what's happening. If you pick a neighborhood and you farm that neighborhood and you become the agent in that neighborhood, it builds a predictability, consistency, so that because you get that, that creates listings. So everyone in that subdivision, that area, as long as you have enough opportunities happening, you can be looked at like, oh, this is my go-to agent. So you want to build that predictability so that you can create the listings by doing that. It's very important to have that. We'll get into that a lot more as we go through. So again, a lot of people say, what is real estate farming? What even is it? So this is your intentional market ownership through repeated exposure and trust. All that means, I mean, you can all read, all that means fancy is that you're going to show that you own that market. You're going to be intentional. You're going to have a plan. You're going to have things to do, and you're going to expose and show trust through all the different things we're going to talk about today as we get into a little bit more. So this has to be something intentional, and it's repeated. It's not a one-time, one shot. So if you decide to do this and pick a neighborhood and try to be the agent in that area, you're really going to take some effort and time. It's going to be repeated. It's going to be done every time. You're really going to have to take the time and the effort to do it. Now, the two major types of farming we're going to talk about is geographical and digital. We're going to get into those a little bit deep dive. So the first one we're going to mention is some geographical farming and what is geographical farming. Then we'll kind of talk about what's digital. So geographical farming, you were going to, of course, pick a neighborhood, the geography. We're going to have your physical presence, and you're going to be coming across as the local authority in that area. So all those are very important. You have to pick a neighborhood. You have to be there, door knocking, open houses, etc. All that we'll talk about. And you have to be the local authority. And we'll get into that a little bit more. And what a digital farming is, on this one, you're going to have your audience focus on different things. It could be whatever your message is at the time. You need to have some online visibility, which means you can't only post once a month. You have to be out there a lot, doing things, checking out the neighborhood, sharing about it, doing all that kind of stuff. And your systems in place have to be able to scale. And when we get into a little bit later, once we pick a neighborhood, we'll show you how it should scale every month and the increase you should get on your listings and things like that as it goes through. You should be able to scale your systems and kind of know what you're scaling and what you're going to be getting. Okay. Now, to choose the right farm, you need to know the turnover rate, the competition, and the demographics. That's the major things you need. In a lot of the turnover rate, there's a percent, there's a year. We're going to get into all that together and kind of get you through. But that's what you got to think. What's my turnover rate? Is there already competition? And what's the demographics in there? So for your turnover rate, you should have a 6 to 10% annual turnover, okay? And I'll show you what that means when we get into it. So anywhere between a 6 to 10 annual turnover is great of what you want. What that means, this is a good idea when you start thinking about properties. You want them built anywhere between 1998 to 2015. It can be newer, but you don't want to have to fight with too many builders, as you'll see in another bullet. You want anywhere between 250 and 450. Now, of course, this is talking about San Antonio market. But if you're in the market of your area, think, what's our median price? Ours is about 300, 320. So you're about 100 under and 100,000 over should be your price range. That's your main target areas. You want to make sure there's not heavy investor activity in those areas. We have a couple areas that are going through gentrification. They have a ton of investors in there. Those are not going to be the best properties, the best subdivisions to pick. It's not going to work as good. Okay. If there are some builders, if there are some dominant builders in that area, you want to make sure there's not more than just one or two of them. It's okay if there's a couple builders. Well, let me jump back to that one. Sorry. If there's a couple builders, but there's only one or two, that's fine. There's nothing going to have an issue with that. If you have more than one or two dominant builders, if there's 4 or 5, the builders are going to be in control of that subdivision. So you have to make sure there's only one or two builders in that area. And you have to make sure you have an HOA, which people like having HOA sometimes, but they're not overly super restrictive. Some HOAs are, especially some higher end places, they're really crazy and they go ridiculous. Even like your grass, that people checking your distance. I mean, every little thing you can imagine, they go crazy over. Those ones are going to be hard to be really heavy farming because they're going to be hard for people to be happy in those neighborhoods. No one's going to want to move unless they're very specific. As they say, you have some zip code wannabes who want to live in certain zip codes or neighborhoods just to be in that neighborhood and show their friends and family that they live in that zip code or neighborhood. So you want an HOA, it's okay, but not overly restrictive. Now, if it has those filters, those have a great conversion for mail, digital, and door knocking, okay? That's the way you want to think. That section right there, 1998, 2015, you have your price, no heavy, no dominant builders, decent HOA, but not restrictive. Those are great. That's what we want to start looking for. Another thing you want to look at is you want to check out what's called your agent saturation rate. So what this agent saturation rate does, it lets you know if there's any other agents in your area that you need to worry about, just like it says. So if, like the big if underneath. So if you have an agent that has less, like the top agent is under 20% of the market share, you're good. You can still do it. But if the top agent or the main one agent has 35% or more of that market share, they've already farmed that neighborhood, they've already taken it, you're probably not going to be as successful in that neighborhood because you just don't have the opportunity as much. But if you have 10 or more agents with one or two deals each, that gives you a huge wide open neighborhood you can pick. You don't have as much issues. You have a lot of more opportunities that'll help you do a lot better in your neighborhood. Now again, a 5-minute farm test as they call it. You pull 12 months close. We're going to do this together. You're going to divide by the total number of homes. And then you're going to confirm it's a 6 to 10% turnover or less right in there. Check year zone, 10 to 17. Then you're going to check the agent dominance. If all 5 checks, the 5-minute farm test as I call it, if all 5 of these checks, this is a great way to lock in and do this. Okay, I'm going to share this link with us now. Let me go back to that link and try to open this up real quick. Okay, so this is an Excel sheet that we're going to have available to you. So again, these two are changeable. So we're going to say the average sale price we'll say is $300,000. So the average GCI, gross commission income per listing, 3% of $300,000 is about $9,000. And we're going to find the actual price for sale right now as we do this. So I'm just going to pick a neighborhood. In the neighborhood that I'm going to pick, if I go to my MLS listing single residential, I'm going to go there. I'm just going to pick this one, Lucky Ranch. This is I know it has a lot of homes already. So I already did some research to have this ready. So I have my neighborhood. Again, I want to find out how many homes have sold only. And I want to go down and I want to check the last 12 months. Okay, so remember the sheet said what? How many homes have sold right here in the last 12 months? So if I go to my subdivision, again, Lucky Ranch, I put sold 12 months back, it gives me 87 homes. Okay, that's a great number. I'm looking good so far. So that's 87. So now I have that information. I'm going to go here to the bottom. Okay, the subdivision is Lucky Ranch. I know it's spelled weird. That's how they did it. If I spelled it right. So how many homes total? So if I go to my tools on my MLS and I open Courthouse Retrieval Program, CRS Courthouse Retrieval, I already have it open here, and I search Lucky Ranch. And there it is, Lucky Ranch subdivision here at the bottom. I open that up. Now, once I open it and I get it open, I only have to pick the first home. It doesn't matter what home it is because it's just to get the information. And if I go here to facts and figures, down to subdivision info, I can see what the amount of homes. So right here in the subdivision, 2,452 homes. So I'm going to go back here and put in 2,452. I already know there's sales for the last month I check that, it's 87. So here I'm going to put in 87. Now, how many pending sales do I have? So I go right back to the MLS, take off sold, and I go to pending. So right now there's 15 pending in Lucky Ranch. So all you do is put that number in there, pending, I'm going to put 15. So the total annual sales in the last 12 months, considering all these are going to close, would be 102. So my annual turnover rate is right about 4.5 to 5. Remember, we want to be between 6 and 10. So we're close. And the average years owned, let's see what those are. So if I go back to the courthouse retrieval, is 6.3. So let's fix that. So the average years owned, we're going to say 6.3. And then our median sale price, we said 300. And then your estimated listing, we're going to say you get 10% of the listings. So right now, based on the years owned and the turnover rate, is the farm score is a 50%. Remember, you want to get a higher to 60 to 80%. So if we were to fix that, any things, you'd have to either have more pending sales, more closed, or more average years owned. So let's just say for number wise, the average years owned was 15, and they had, we'll say 25 pending sales. So now you can see this has changed a little bit. Your rate has gone up. This has gone up some. This has gone up. Let's say closed sales, we'll say 95, and all this kind of changes a little bit. We can change the years owned to 25. I just to show you how the years go. It didn't change a big difference, but it did some. So depending on the score, as you can see, it shows if it's 60%, all the different scores. So you want to get higher. But this, based on what we had there, again, so we had our, average home sold was 87. So we did 87, and then we had our 15, and that puts us all right back. This is, we'll say 7 years, and the median sale price. So based on these numbers, Lucky Ranch, even though there's a lot of people there, and it looks like would be a great one to farm, which is good for first-time homebuyers because a lot of first-time homebuyers live there. Now remember, you don't want to farm where only first-time homebuyers are buying. You want to get people to sell. But some people do have to sell to move out. This only has a 50% farm score. So you'd want to try a different subdivision. And then your touch point. So if you have, let me go back to my home. So you have 2440, let's say right here, Lucky Ranch. This other tab at the bottom is your ROI, and it's 2452. 2452. So this kind of tells you what you're spending. So if I spent $250 a month on mailouts, and I spent $50 on my door knocking and little hangers, and I ran $300 a month for digital ads, my monthly cost would be $600 a month. I would have $7,200 annually. Out of that, based on a 10% conversion, I should catch 25 listings if I had a 10% conversion. I decided to do this. So you'd have to track it, because remember, this is only a 50% score, so I might not have a 10% conversion. I might only get 15 listings instead of 25. My cost per listing gives me $288, and as you can see, my gross commission would be $225,000 for that year if I got my 25 listings based on the 9,000. So this you might not quite make the 25 listings. Instead of 10%, we might want to make that a different number, but that's an idea of how that works. And then the 3-year domination, if the first gross commission, so here you get to put your commission, you have 9,000. So this one here, if I had 9 listings, because of all the difference here, my first one at 9 listings, based on 9 times 9 is 81, 9,000 per listing, I'd make 81,000. And if I went up a certain percent, which is a 15% based on the amount of closings, my first year, as I went from 9 listings to 22 to 39, every year I should get a 15, 10%, 5%, 20%, or 10, 15, 20, should have a 5% increase in your listings for that subdivision per year if you keep targeting. So my first year I make 81. The next year I make 198 because I went from 9 to 22 because I still have my 9. Now I'm going to get my 22, and then I'm going to get my 39. They're all going to start adding up because you're still going to keep the base and add another 5% every time. So as you can see, you're going to add all these up, and they're just going to keep adding up. So what I would have been, remember, you're going to still make the amount, but you're going to add extra. So I went from 80,000 to 198 to 300 based on the amount of listings that I'm going to get based on that subdivision. So this, I know that's a lot of little numbers to run through, but this gives you an idea of, is it worth my time? So Lucky Ranch, if you could get 9 listings at that 9,000 per listing, this is your gross, of course, not counting what you would have to pay if you had an 80-20 split, like a lot of agents have, not including any cap or anything. So even if you only got 80% of that, that's pretty good. So let's say you had 81,000, and we'll do that right there, and 80% of that, because of the 80-20 split, puts you at 65,000. And then once you're at 198, 80% of that puts you at 158. And of course, you're going to cap before that, so you're going to keep more than that. But that's just an idea to kind of think about when you start going through here and you start looking at different options and what you can do. That's one of the ways you can do it. Okay, one thing you have to make sure is you have to look at who is the dominant agent in that area. And then once you know who it is, which one's doing the best, he or she is, you want to see what are they doing? What works for them? What are they not doing that they could do better? Don't reinvent the wheel. If you have one agent that's getting 10% of the listings, remember 10% is okay. That's still a decent farm. It's not perfect, but it's still decent. You can still do that. You can go with that and still try to get the rest of the listings in that subdivision if you have enough homes. So think what works for them, what doesn't work for them. Now, this is a big one. You have to avoid ego farms. And what's that means is that another one, good way to think, I just want to be known there. So it's a great area. I love it. Like there's some really rich areas up towards Bernie where I live that are not great farm areas, but people love them because of the high price, and they want to say, I'm the agent in this subdivision. I'm the agent here, even though there's not a great turnaround. So the problem is the low turnaround, 2 to 4%, and the long ownership cycles. People live there for a very long time. A lot of luxury people will buy it for their dream home. There's few annual sales, and it can take a long time to get traction. So the issue you have here in these type of neighborhoods is you feel busy, you're doing stuff, but you're not getting many listings. And you're wondering, why am I not getting listings? I'm working my butt off. Because you're working for nothing. There's not a good enough turnover rate. Another big one that I hear a lot is agents say, well, I live here, I'm going to farm this area. This is my subdivision. So if you live in a nicer area, they might have low movement. So remember, a lot of nice neighborhoods where agents live, there's a lot of high pride in those neighborhoods, and a lot of people have low turnovers. So you might only see 1 to 2 listings per year, or 3 or 4, like where I live now in my neighborhood. We only have, we have 3, 4, 500 homes in the neighborhood, which isn't a lot to start with, but there's only 4 or 5 listings active at any time. So that's even 500 homes. If you have 5, and that's 10%, that would be 50. So 1%, 2% of everything is maybe selling. It's only 3 to 4 listings per year. So you may have 1 or 2 active, even if you spend all that money. So it wouldn't really be worth it. My amount on my home, when I do the numbers, don't make sense in my subdivision. So just because I live there doesn't mean I want to farm there. Remember, your convenience doesn't always equal the profitability. You got to do it. It's a high-end luxury area. A lot of people say, ooh, it's a high-end luxury area, but there's only a 1 to 3% turnaround in many high-end luxury areas. And a lot of these people bought their home from certain agents, and a lot of them are extremely loyal to their agents when they sell who they bought them from. They already know their agents. They bought 3 or 4 homes. They've already trusted them. It's really hard. These are long decision timelines. And there's massive marketing costs. To market $1 million homes, you're not just going to do basic marketing. These are going to be expensive marketing. You might spend $10,000, $20,000 marketing. I have a good friend that does a lot of farm and ranch. He spends $20,000 to $30,000 sometimes per month, at least $10,000 to $15,000 per month, marketing these big ranches and all these other properties. He sells a ton and it pays off, but it is a lot. He spends $150,000 a year just in marketing. And he gets a lot of money and makes well, but he spends a lot in marketing. So unless you already control these luxury brands, like they always say brand plays, they're not income plays. A lot of people, unless you control these luxury markets already, you're going to have a hard time getting into them. And remember, you might say, well, everyone knows me in my neighborhood, that I'm the agent. That's great. That doesn't mean that just because they wave at you, like you, and know your name and say hi, they might be, if they aren't selling, the farm doesn't pay you. All your neighbors could think you're great, but if they're not selling, they're not taking advantage of you, you're not going to get paid. So you want to think, what does a non-ego farm look like? You want a farm, but not egotistical. So a smart farm is boring on the surface. You want to say, this is not very exciting. I know, that's great. So again, you want to look for this: 6 to 10 annual turnaround, 10 to 17 year average ownership, 800 to 2,500 homes, and no agent controlling more than 30%. Better 10 to 20% max. And then median home price, you can convert consistently. If your median home right now in San Antonio, it's about 310, 290, 300, that kind of stuff. It's that's what people are buying here. So if I wanted those median prices I could turn over and get people in and move the people who sell to a better one, I'm looking at places like Lucky Ranch, Northeast Crossing, things like that are boring, but have a great turnover and a great price. I can control those. They're not cool and sexy, but that's okay. They still produce listings so they can continue to go through. So now we talk about age, equity, motivational factors. So you got to think, when you look at your subdivision, I use Lucky Ranch, for example. That's more of a first-time home buyer, people selling. Not always a lot of military in there, not always people selling and buying and moving in there. Some people are, because it's a decent price, but not always. Equity, that's why we say have that turnaround time to build enough equity, and then have motivation. A lot of people live in their area homes for 6 to 10 years. That's what a lot of people live in those areas. We have a higher turnaround in San Antonio because of military, things like that. So you got to know those motivational triggers. All right, now we're going to talk about some physical farming. So some of these: door knocking, mailers, signage, and networking. Door knocking, you already know, you're going to knock on people's door and you're going to offer value. Okay, we're going to talk about that for a second. You're going to be informative. So you're not just going to knock and say, hey, I wonder if you ever thought about selling your house. You're going to offer some value. Say, hey, taxes coming up. I'm doing this video in January. Taxes are coming up. Do you know how to protest your taxes? That's informative. I'll share that information with you, and I'll give you a free CMA of your house. Now you have permission to run a CMA. Now you get all the information. Now you can help them fight their taxes. That's a value driven. It's respectful. That's a kind of good door knocking you want to talk to. So when you do mailers, you want to do market updates. As the interest rates just went down a little bit, is anyone doing mailouts? I didn't see anything in my neighborhood happening yet. Those are mailouts that come out. This is what's happening in the interest. This is what happened in the market. You just sold or just listed, anything like that. If you have upcoming, personal notes, like, hey, in our area, a lot of seen people put out, here's the next, the next football schedule for the next year. And they sent it out as a little calendar. Things like that where people know that's happening and they can keep track of it. Little personalized things, little pop buys, like little, we had one agent dropped on our front door, which was cute. They said, spring is coming. If you want to spring ahead with your new home sale, I'm here to help. And they put little spring flower seeds. It was cute. My wife was like, oh, that's so sweet. And it was nice. It was all cute things like that. That's what people think. They want to connect with you personally. Now, digital farming, when you do things like that, you want to be with social media. Of course, you want to be out there in whatever one you're going to use. You're going to be running ads. You run Instagram, Facebook, whatever ads you want, YouTube. You want to be sending out emails and SEO, search engine optimization. Have Facebook groups or whatever groups you want to do. Be on Nextdoor. Be offering value back to people so that they have an opportunity to get some money, to give something back to you. When people get something, they want to give something back. So again, if you're familiar, you're going to get variety. You're going to get viral. If you don't do this and get familiar, you're not going to go viral. People are going to have to see it a couple times, see you multiple times to want to go through. Now, email ads and SEO, search engine optimization, you want to have a specific language. You want to be doing consistent messages. So you don't just want to do boring emails that come out check out what's your home worth. Talk about what's happening. Hey, fireworks stands are coming out. That just stopped. What's happening in, just January, February? Is there any special events at the park? In our area up towards Bernie, Texas, they always have once a month, they'll do a fun, I don't know, like a park thing where a bunch of vendors come up, like a vendor day. People love that. Do things like that. Share a message with your community. And then you want to blend physical and digital. So you're going to be sending out postcards, doing posts, doing things in that neighborhood, and then you're going to be knocking on doors. You're going to be doing open houses, inviting people to your open houses, get a higher conversion. All that is going to blend together to connect you with your people so that you can work that way and connect and build that thing. And then once you would do this, like we showed you together, you want to go back to your Excel sheet that we kind of walked through. And I would go this yourself, pick a neighborhood like we showed you, find the data, and see what's my farm score. Is this a good data? Is it a good neighborhood? Could I even waste my time doing this? It's up to you if you want to do that, I suppose. Like, that's okay. You can kind of go from there and see how you want to do it. Hope this gives you some good pointers of how to do some farming and pick the right neighborhood to farm. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. Talk to you soon.